What are some good internet rabbit holes to fall into during this time of quarantine? Does anyone remember a series of photos and backstory about a woman and her lover who murdered her BF who was a drug dealer and took heaps of Polaroids? A lot of corpse defilement, decapitation, genitals removed, may have even stuck them in his mouth, all the while they are posing naked with the corpse. It was one of the first things I saw on the internet, but I've noticed, no matter what I put into Google I get no results. It was from the 80s I believe. The Rotten Library. Rotten.com/library has an archive of essentially a pre-Wikipedia with hand-written articles on weird stuff, cults, murders, etc. It's cross-linked, so it's easy to get lost. It's a relic of when the web was just scattered information with no real way to find it. The Rotten Library was my teenage introduction to so many oddities that today get reposted on Reddit every few months. Edit. Found a mirror. Rotten Library mirror. Same. I spent so many hours on Rotten.com in my teens. My mum and I were obsessed with it. Opened my mind to a world of stuff. So go to Wikipedia and pick a country and look at a history of their leaders. Can be interesting to see a list of them and the politics behind it, especially African countries cause they're wild how often they switch and for why. You could always play the Hitler game. Hit a random page on Wikipedia. You have 5 pages to find Hitler. If it lives on the counter at room temp, you discard a bit and feed it a bit each day takes about 2 minutes. If you keep it in the fridge, you discard a bit and feed it a bit once a week. Even better, if it lives in the fridge, take it out the night/morning before you want to bake with it and give it a feed. I'm in Wuhan and I started running out of yeast really early in our lockdown, so I made a sourdough starter. Mine doesn't taste very sour, more like super slow rising yeast with a bit more character, but it was a fun project and I prefer bread made with my starter to using the commercial yeast I've since gotten, though the commercial stuff is necessary if I need a quick rise. I was looking into sourdough a couple of months ago and didn't realize that you have to feed it and so on. Does it seem like a real chore to do, or is it pretty simple? Worked at a bakery once, and a kid accidentally threw out the starter and cleaned the container. It was brought from Europe by the owner's father. It was bad. Who didn't put the starter away? The kid probably got told, every dirty dish gets washed, no exceptions. Or, after arbitrary time bakers go home, any dish left out must be washed, so it is ready for the morning crew. I've been down a rabbit hole to make sourdough bread. I'm fascinated now. I didn't realize how the process works. I saw some lady who's been using the same starter since the 1970s, and she got hers from a woman who used hers for the last 100 years. Edit. Heck, this thing really blew up. People are asking for links, as I'm sure there are thousands. This was what a friend shared with me that started me into this now black hole. Seems like a good lad making bread. Great job on your quick rundown and getting this out there. More people will definitely look more into this case because of you. Delphi is about 20 minutes from me. What happened to Abby and Libby shook Central Indiana hard. The girls did a great job trying to record him. My heart breaks for them and their families. Thank you for spreading the word. One of my favorite things to do is look around on Google Earth at an area you never plan on traveling to. Zoom way in and learn about the small villages/communities/cities that live on completely different continents or tiny islands in the middle of nowhere. It's seriously insane how humans are willing to live anywhere. Holy shit, yes, I've spent countless hours just looking at hidden corners out of curiosity. Now I mainly do this just to look for photography locations to travel to. If you're into music, there are a ton of great channels on YouTube. Rick Beato does a lot of music and song analyzes. Alex Ball has done some documentaries about Roland and the Prophets synthesizers. All really interesting history and information. True Cuckoo is a dude who has a ton of videos about synthesizers, drum machines and jams. Not to mention tutorials. There's so much that you can learn. I started with guitar and recently I got into synths and drum machines, and YouTube is a great place to get to learn from plenty of talented people. I missed a ton, but I guess you can do the exploring yourself. In early 2000s, someone began posting on several message boards claiming to be a military time traveler from the year 2036. He arrived in 2000 on a stopover for personal reasons. His primary mission was to return to 1975 to recover an IBM 5100 computer which was needed to debug huge computer issues that would arise in his original time. Some have disregarded this as an elaborate hoax. The rubbies. There is an anticipated Y2K style computer frying event, and only like 5 people in the world knew the IBM 5100 debugging programming existed, which was later confirmed to be true by someone involved with the project. His stories contained predictions from his timeline, time travel theory, physics of his machine, and even schematics of the time travel device. All his posts are archived. Enjoy your trip down the rabbit hole. On YouTube, I have been viewing this channel named Horror Stories. It's a collection of short but brief real-life horror stories of people who died in the most horrible, unimaginable, and unsuspecting way. No clickbaits, on-point storytelling. Mr. Nightmare is also pretty good at real-life scary stories. He has a great voice for telling scary stories, and makes good use of stock images and stock video to create atmospheric visuals. I recommend this because it's become obvious that part of the problem right now is how many people didn't do well in school, me included. Big part of why I love this site, or did not have the opportunity, and thus tune out valuable information they don't understand. I wish more people took advantage of the fact that scholastic information is free, or close to it. Just gotta look for it online nowadays. Before the internet you had to be lucky enough to afford education and live in a place where that kind of opportunity was available. Most people in the past didn't get to change their future as easily as we can. My father's hope as a kid in the 70s was to, one day, be rich enough to have other people go to the library and find out things for him. Google's a fair bit cheaper. Science channels. From entertaining to informative, science channels have been my favorite types of channels to binge. Source is one of the best at this. Backyard Scientist, Mark Rober, and Slow Mo Guys to name a few. And if you're up to a mental challenge, go for really heady, concept, theory-laden channels like PBS Space Time and Quantum Gravity Research. Kurzgesagt is also very good. True crime. Something about murderers and serial killers are terribly addictive to learn about. The ethics issues of persecuting a mentally ill person/minor as well as the eventual rehabilitation, and whether they should ever be released. A truly fascinating field. Only downside is that I can't talk about these with people I know IRL. Can't imagine telling anyone oh my hobby, I like murders. My girlfriend and I watched every single Eurovision music video from the last 5 years over the course of 3 days. Time well spent. I never knew how amazing the whole competition is. It's like Got Talent on steroids. You didn't know you needed it in your life until it suddenly is there, never to leave again. Have fun with the older shows too. Did you know that we are actually a hybrid slave race forged by aliens to mine precious metals, to repair the atmosphere of their home planet, and the Great Flood was them trying to wash us off the planet because they starting falling in love with us? True story. Now you don't have to watch weeks of movies about the Anunnaki. My ex started going on about Anunnaki after a mental breakdown and became obsessed with conspiracy theories. If I have to hear the words Anunnaki or dimensions one more time, I fear my brain might literally melt out of my skull just to avoid the conversation. Pizza crust. It's easy to make some of the best you've ever had. There is a whole world of crust makers who share their techniques. It can become addicting. You can use the dough to make garlic knots, breadsticks, etc. Look up conspiracy theories, spooky stories, and mysteries on YouTube. Top 5's bedtime stories and Lazy Masquerade are all really good, and also paranoia inducing. Oh, and also Cold Case Detective. I stumbled across a link to a story on this, about a videotaped basketball game I think, and I was deep into reading it before I realized it wasn't real. I know it sounds stupid, but the way I came to it gave no indication that it was fiction, and the way it was written was sort of factual and straightforward and non-fiction-y. Also, I'm a bit stupid. I'd love to read it again. If anyone has a link, I'm not sure how I'd find it. Basically, the taped game starts with one difference to the actual broadcast, then develops from there. This man reads high-tier fantasy. Mistborn is an amazing gateway drug into fantasy. It offers a little bit to everyone. Some violence, some romance, some world building. A good blend of fantastical and realistic characters. Lots of snappy dialogue. As a history buff, the series presented a great blend of realistic and fantastic revolution and aftermath. I've been watching video, reading blogs, doing my own other research about living off the grid, gardening, van life, camping. I find it really interesting and want to get more into gardening and composting and living off the lands. I want chickens, 4 eggs, and ultimately would like a vegetarian/pescatarian lifestyle. I'm really into the idea of solar power and using a wood stove, etc. This gets recommended a lot on Reddit, but where do I start? Drop in random pages or just go for SCP-001 and start reading? Or is there a recommended best of kind of thing? I would suggest starting at SCP-173, the original. The most famous SCPs are often also quite beginner friendly. SCP-096, SCP-049 and SCP-106 come to my mind immediately. Often there are longer testing reports which are quite interesting. SCP-914, which is a machine that can upgrade or downgrade things, is tested with so much stuff. Or look up SCP Illustrated on YouTube, they draw the articles and read them out to you. Helps visualizing the whole thing. Enjoy your reading adventure. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.